because I plan to give out homework at the end. In a discussion session last week, a small group of us read through some materials designed to orient us to UU theology and its meaning in our lives. A strong claim was made that one goal we should hold for our theological understanding, however we frame it, is a guidance for forming and grounding our convictions. The assertion was that we frame meaning to help us explain why things are a certain way, and that we build values as guidelines to use in interpreting our world. But our convictions are our resulting understanding of how we live out these meanings and values, how we put them in action. So convictions are more than beliefs, which are ideas, intellectual constructs, and they're more than emotions, which are feelings, which are psychological constructs. Convictions are created when we combine both reason and feeling into a will to act. Hosea Ballou, who was a founder of the Universalist movement in the early 1800s, wrote these words over 200 years ago. There is one inevitable criterion of judgment touching religious faith in doctrinal matters, and that is, can you reduce it to practice? If not, have none of it. This claim still resonates today. If our religion does not inform us in the matter of how we should live and act, we probably need a new religion. Now, we do accept that the formation of values, beliefs, and convictions is an ongoing and constant lifetime project, always subject to revision. In other words, religious education is not just something for the kids, it's a lifespan process of learning and growing. We also know that it is our responsibility to engage in questions of commitment and conviction. On several occasions in the past year, I've suggested that we promote our shared values by taking positions on issues that are active in our community, as we currently do by claiming that Black Lives Matter, both on our electric signboard and on our website. I floated a banner with 6 social slogans as one idea, and I got wise feedback from some of you. So I want to restart this conversation anew. What are the values and opinions we share as a congregation? Can we draw decisions from our values about issues like climate change, race, women's rights, LGBTQ issues, immigration, policing and justice, gun control, voting rights, and other issues of our day? Is our voice important in Beverly and in Chicago? And how? Do we aspire to take a public platform? Which issues matter most to us as a religious body? And how can we best articulate and communicate on topics where we do wish to speak out? So let me back up a bit here. We have agreed not to make issue statements in the name of Beverly Unitarian Church without going through a formal decision process and serious consideration of what and why we are stating something. Our record on Black Lives Matter is instructive. I'm going to oversimplify this story, but in essence, I think it went as follows. Following the series of high-profile and deadly confrontations of African-American citizens with the police, or of the police with African-American citizens, a national Black Lives Matter movement took root. There was wide enthusiasm to condemn the events which belied a systematic and brutal racial injustice that was perpetrated at times within our law enforcement system. Leadership at BUC, Beverly Unitarian Church, promptly put up Black Lives Matter sign. This in turn prompted responses from the community, some of which were disturbing and felt threatening. And we started to worry about the implications of our action. Was this sign a possible invitation for real harm? Had we considered the fact that a preschool uses our space? Had we followed our own policies in deciding to put up the sign in the first place? The sign was removed, and a long and not fully comfortable process began. After a while, the congregation did agree that this was a statement they wanted to make. The sign was restored, and it's still displayed regularly. A good outcome following a fairly clumsy process. Gene Robinson just related to me a different story about Beverly Unitarian taking a position in opposition to preemptive military aggression in Iraq during the second Bush administration. They followed church rules this time, and a quorum of members approved the following resolution in a congregational meeting. We, the members of Beverly Unitarian Church, commit ourselves to promoting peace, searching for alternatives to war, seeking nonviolent responses, and working to protect human rights. Therefore, we oppose preemptive military aggression towards Iraq. I think I said Iran earlier. I meant Iraq. A press release was distributed and 2 signs were displayed. Gene reports that this eventually led to some unhappiness being expressed among church members, particularly a few who had not taken part in the decision and the vote. Upon entering further discussions and exploring, Gene learned that the sign was troubling other members as well. In part, this was because the situation in Iraq had changed by then. We had engaged militarily, and American troops were now standing in harm's way. The strongest anti-war part of the sign was removed, but the formal resolution remained. In Jean's words, and I should note she was president of our congregation at this time, this is a learning experience that illustrates one of the reasons that Unitarian Universalism is not an easy religion. We live with the tension between respectful tolerance of opposing viewpoints and the responsibility to stand up for the values we hold dear. How can we honor both diversity of thought and community action on issues as important as war and peace? That's a big question, and I assume you're still struggling with it. So these stories show a few of the reasons that public statements and signs can be difficult, and also represent that the congregation has an ongoing interest in weighing in on the public forum regarding justice issues. And it's worth noting that people do notice. Just last week, I received this following note from the church office. Mary Lewan, our wonderful administrator, told me, a man called noting that the church endorses Black Lives Matter on both the electric sign and the website. The caller wonders if the church still wants to endorse a group that supports an anti-Semitic Palestinian group that is responsible for the slaughter of babies and innocent civilians. This was a call we got last week. I returned the call to this man because he'd left his number, and he indeed was distraught by the news from the past week. I tried to stay out of the weeds with him and mostly explained that we consider Black Lives Matter as a social movement and a message, and that we don't try to speak for the organizations that also carry the same name. I did not agree or disagree with those organizations. I also expressed my sympathy with the plight of the Palestinian people under the Israeli government and my dismay and disgust at the actions taken by Hamas last week. We did not agree on much, but he was calm and measured and genuinely appreciated that his complaint led to a reply. He was one of our complainers those many years ago, and he never heard back. And his question warrants attention. We should always be asking, because we claim this in our messaging, is Black Lives Matter still the best way to communicate our position on racial justice in relation to the legal system? I'm still comfortable with the phrase, but we should always be facile with our messaging and stay current in our research. But getting back to what prompted this, twice I proposed that a banner would be an easy way to represent some conclusions we might share. I'm now convinced that my earlier effort was premature. I've talked to some wiser voices. This is the thing I held up, I don't know, 6 months ago. And I don't know if I can get it to stand, but you can see it. It's a rainbow. Thank you. It's a rainbow. And it says, in this congregation we believe love is love, Black Lives Matter, climate change is real, no human being is illegal, all genders are whole, holy, and good, and women have agency over their bodies. I thought these were sentiments that were probably shared. I'm now firmly convinced, as I said, okay, I think you can put it down. Let's lay it anywhere. Thank you. And my efforts were premature, not necessarily because we don't want to make statements on these issues, but because we don't necessarily want to make these statements. All of the potential issues we might wish to take positions on are rooted in complex problems with a lot of moving parts. Take any area, whether it's racism or women's rights, and people dedicate their whole careers to research, policy formation, and investigating cultural change on these matters. The problems are huge, but public messages are necessarily short, concise, and snappy. We want to make sure that anything we do say captures the essence of a much broader discussion, and that it will be interpreted by most people the way we intend. One questionable example in this banner is the phrase, love is love. Probably about 5-6 years ago, I think everybody would have known what we meant by that. But now it's just a reflexive statement, a tautology. We know that it stood in place for support of marriage rights, but that phrase is so yesterday that it soon may be meaningless. We still care about the right to have same-sex marriage, but it's not an actively threatened part of American society at the moment. Do we really want to use our space to say love is love? Another is the statement that all genders are whole, holy, and good. Poetic is a turn of phrase, but it might not be really clear about what we want to say about transsexuality, gender fluidity, and individual rights. Even very nearby, transsexual rights are threatened dramatically in other states. But this phrase, even if you think you know what it means, or I think I know what it means, could we expect others to see the same thing in those words? I think we should feel compelled to speak out, to shout our convictions to the world, to stand fully behind our principles and values. But the question remains, on what do we agree? And that involves both what we think and what we think is most important in the current public debate. Most of you consider social justice efforts to be a significant role of the UU Church, and many have cited it as a major reason for their involvement with Beverly Unitarian. But how do we hold our social justice? Now, I know we're going to run short on time here. And if you're a really ardent Bears fan, you have permission to leave at any time. But I'm going to ask you to break into small groups here of about 3 or 4 people, just for about 5 minutes. And I'm going to hand out a list of topics that it's arbitrary. It's off the top of my head. But I'd like you to just briefly see if you can agree or share or disagree and whatever on which of these topics are most important to you, to us, and which lend themselves best to public comment. And I'm not going to tell you how to fill out this form if indeed it's a form, but I would like you, if possible, to annotate a little bit some of the feelings you reach. Mark it up and comment. Now, everybody's going to get 2 copies, a white one and a green one. And the reason for that is the white one is what you'll use here and probably leave behind, and the is your homework. If you can, I would like people to take it home, think on it when you have a little more time, a little more space, and figure out what it is that you really think that we should weigh in on. The more detailed you can get, the better. If you have specific words you should hear that you think we should hear, that's great. But I'm just trying to start this discussion and steer a course so that we can move onward in figuring out how to express ourselves. Could I get a little help in distribution? This is what you get for sitting in the front. Good. And I did not prepare a copy of this for you all on the chat. My apologies. You can pretty much guess what the issues are. While they're being handed out, I'll read what I wrote. Race and racism, police and justice reform, immigration and immigrants, reproductive rights, other issues involving women's rights, LGBTQ plus marriage rights, LGBTQ plus transgender rights, environment and climate, voting rights and gun control, vaccination, public health, the war in Ukraine, the Israel-Hamas war, book banning, cleansing history, and the final question is, what's missing? Okay. Oh, good, you found my pens.
Shall we talk to each other? Can you hear us? They won't hear us in the sanctuary, but we can hear each other.
You can do what you want. You can throw out my list.
No, I'll just try to teach. Can we talk over them?
Good question.
Well, I mean, according to you,
Perhaps the sanctuary could be muted while we.
oh, yeah, I don't know. That's a good thought.
I think we're successfully talking over them. So
We seem to be, yeah.
yeah. I think it's true that same-sex rights are in threat.
Absolutely.
Justice Alito even said it's not a guarantee.
Yeah. Well, everybody I know, or the couples I know, are seriously concerned about it.
Yep.
Ones that have been married longer feel a little safer, but they have the ability to go to pretty much almost any country with the work that one of them in the marriage does. So if the U.S. gets too dicey, they can potentially go somewhere else like they are right now. But that doesn't work for everybody.
Nope. And it really, really chafes my patriotism that the US is a place to seek refuge from. Really chafes me.
Yeah, I mean, we're supposed to be welcoming and arms open to refugees and people in trouble.
And clearly we haven't been, and the right has been extremely successful at turning us around, but yeah. I know that many women are state refugees, or many women and other pregnant people who need abortion care. So
Yeah,
on the question of
personally,
whether as a congregation we should be taking public stances, I believe absolutely. There are some pretty basics stuff that we can agree on.
Could I
Right.
interject? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I hear you great.
Okay, cool.
I hear you.
So, what you just said made me think. So, are we specifically talking about stuff to make a public stand on, or are we also talking about where to focus the energies of our community in our work?
I thought we were talking about what to take a public stance on.
Okay, all right.
Or whether to take a public stance on
Right.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yep. Okay.
And we're never going to get everybody to absolutely agree on the same thing. I mean, that will never, I don't think. I mean, because we all can put a slightly different spin on it, on things.
Well, do we all agree on the basic 7 principles?
Basically, yes, yes. I think it's just hard to get a large group of people.
Yeah, you're right. I agree. That's true. So I guess that's all the more reason to be very specific and select carefully, maybe.
Yeah. Careful wording.
Right.
Because I see what Alan is saying on this, that you can't, you have to be careful what you say. Words matter.
Right.
We had the same sign, similar sign in our yard, and I took it down because it almost felt, in light of the conversations that have been happening that have pulled the country so far to the right, it almost felt quaint to say
Yeah.
things like science is real. Like, actually, we need to make stronger statements than science is real and human beings are not illegal. Like, it's not strong enough, almost, for me.
Yeah.
But it's still a very much minority.
It felt very 2016 when
Yeah.
we're in a 2023 world where we're being threatened with authoritarian fascism. I will
I'm
ask
losing
if
what you're saying. After
Casey,
we're
can
being
you talk
threatened.
louder? I'm sorry.
Why is that? Because Indiana, along with
The other thing is about being provocative. I mean, do we want to be provocative or do we want to invite people for discussion? You know, that's one of my concerns.
No, it does have to do with climate change.
I don't think we're provocative, but people take it that way. Can anybody even hear me?
I heard you.
Okay.
I can't hear Stacy. That's my problem.
Okay.
I hear you. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
look, I'm a pretty big leftist, and feel the right has no qualms with provocative statements. And if I'm always in favor of being a little bit more provocative than maybe the rest are comfortable with. So
Yeah, it's a good thing to consider, you know, because some people, I don't know what, you know, what's the goal, you know, what's the aim?
for
Is
me,
it
it's
to,
like following what Rebecca Solnit writes about, which is just calling them by their names. Our civility that we have in this discussion allows the right to get away with just asking the question. When we're afraid to call out sexism, racism, authoritarianism because it's provocative, we are giving them a pass to be more provocative and pull us more toward authoritarian, right-leaning, oppressionistic tactics. My
Right.
opinion.
Yeah. Right.
I think it has to have a bigger meaning than just doing it to be provocative. We have to have a deeper meaning than,
Prob-
and I think that's part of the question.
Let me see.
This is kind of like a little awkward format, isn't it? Right here. I've never done like a little side meeting on Zoom like this.
I know. I asked Pam to turn off the to mute the congregation, but I don't think
Yeah.
she got it.
Kind of
It's getting
interesting.
louder.
Yeah.
It could have put us into a group.
Well, Pam's been tasked with going a little bit above and beyond what I think has been asked of the TED committee.
Yeah.
So I'm not holding her to it.
Maybe notes for next time.
Yep. I'm gonna hop
Good thought.
off because I'm gonna get ready to go to the church for the potluck.
Okay.
But I love you all.
Thanks.
Thanks, Stacy.
Mary, I don't know.
Okay. I hate to end good discussions, and I might be unable to.
I don't agree with all those facts are established. We can have discussion.
Okay, folks, I hate to end good discussions. You're going to be able to continue them in a moment if you wish, but I do have to end the service before tomorrow. I was going to ask, is there any compelling reporting back? This is something we'll be talking about. Seeing none. Yeah, it has to be compelling. Oh, yes. Tolerance. Okay. Oh, they're coming from the wrong place. Okay, yeah. Basically, what Catherine and Vicki said was that what's missing is notions of tolerance and understanding and sharing information about where people are coming from.
I actually raised my hand because I thought Renee should repeat something that she talked about in terms of like narrowing down and targeting for, there, you want me to not say it or?
Oh, sure. It was very simple. It was just that I thought the potential local effect was the most important category on the page, and that we don't necessarily have to say everything on this banner that we're proposing, that hopefully things like Black Lives Matter will remain on our marquee forever.
Okay, thank you. That's the kind of thing I'm searching for, is understanding. We don't need to figure out where we're coming from. I'd be happy to take collect anything that's on the papers that I might be able to read. And I really do encourage people to process this on your own, and we'll return to the discussion in one way or another, probably not in the middle of a church service, but who knows? Somehow we will find a way to discern what the work of this church should be, and a way to make it happen. What we do here today is but one small piece of the work. May it continue. Bless each of you. Bless all humanity. Blessed be. Let's sing. Hymn number 124. Be that guide.
Sustains, rise above our daily strife. If not alive or good you find, help to heal our hurts of life. Be that helper, nothing gods, not a friend or